I am delighted to welcome you all, ADBI-WCTRS knowledge sharing session on policies and programs for the implementation of high-speed railway network in Asia at WCTRS Virtual Meet 2022. Policymakers in Asia seek relevant information on the lessons from diverse HSR international experience, crucial factors that are important for decision making. Since 2019, ADBI, in partnership with WCTRS, have been working to share knowledge and experiences related to HSR development. In May 2019, ADBI led a session on transport infrastructure and quality of life at the 15th World Conference on Transport Research, witnessing over 100 participants in Mumbai, India. The session highlighted the impact of transport infrastructure development based on experience of HSR projects around the world. Against this background, ADBI co-organized with IIT, JART, and WCTRS a virtual policy dialogue in February 2021. The session featured the experience and lessons learned from the civil works for the first HSR in Japan and Germany. Later in September 2021, ADBI, along with EASTS and WCTRS COVID-19 task force, organized a plenary session on COVID-19 and transport policy in Asian developing countries. As part of efforts to foster interaction between academics, governments, industry experts, and policymakers, Dr. Sitaram, senior consulting specialist from ADBI, co-chairs a special interest group, high-speed rail policy investment and impact. Extending our continued partnership, WCTRS has granted us the opportunity to organize today's session on global experience for HSR network implementation in Asia. The session is divided into two sections. The first section focuses on high-speed rail network extension, urban development, and their integrated impacts, presenting case studies from Japan and Europe. The second section is high-level panel discussion, where experts from Korea, Japan, and India will share their experience on policy and development programs for high-speed rail. Both sections will be followed by an open Q&A with the audience. First, I thank and welcome the speakers for our first section. Professor Yoshitsugu Hayashi, professor at Chubu University, Japan, and former president of WCTRS, and Professor Werner Rosengatter, emeritus professor at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, and the former president of WCTRS, who will be presenting case studies on Japan and Europe. Next, I welcome our speakers for the panel discussion. Dr. Kyung-taek Kim from Korea Transport Institute, Professor Gopal Patel from the Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, Mr. Alok Tripathi from National High-Speed Rail Corporation, India, and Machida Hiroyuki from JART. I would like to extend my regards to Dr. Sitaram from ADBI and Dr. Nikki Rugalia from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, for their effort and collaboration in delivering this session. I also thank Mr. Ashman Bhatt from Singapore University of Technology and Design for his support in preparations. Finally, I welcome all the participants today. I understand we had over 80 participants registered from 15 different countries. I invite all the participants to actively participate in the session and send your questions to us. I sincerely hope that today's session will complement the next generation of HR professionals in improving their capacity for policies and planning of HSR projects. Thank
you
very much.
Thank you very much, DD for such a warm welcome.
Over to you, Pendy.
Yeah, thank you very much. And now we'll begin with our first section of today's session. So high-speed rail infrastructure requires enormous consideration during its planning, design, construction, operation, and maintenance. Japanese Shinkansen, the first high-speed rail system in the world, has captivated the world since its inception in 1964 along the famous Tokaido belt of Tokyo and Osaka. Followed by Japan, the SSR development was actively witnessed in Europe, starting early 1990s by France, Italy, Germany, and Spain. With this background, we will now begin our first part of the events, case studies on high-speed rail, network extension, urban development, and their integrated impacts. I would like to welcome our speakers. Our first speaker, Professor Yoshitsugu Hayashi, is currently serving as a professor at Chubu University, Japan, and as an emeritus professor at Nagoya University. He has been the former president of WCTRS, and is serving as a co-chair of the WCTRS COVID-19 Task Force. His topic of today's presentation is Evaluation of HSR, Wider Economic Benefit in the Region and Personal Quality of Life, Modeling and Case Study in India. Over to you, Hayashi-sensei. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your generous introduction. I will talk about the wider economic benefits and also personal quality of life. This is the illustration, what I will talk today. So now the high-speed rail is planned, and once opened the high-speed rail, travel time will be reduced. And this will affect on direct benefit for travelers. So this is well known. But at the same time, this has various indirect benefits. One is, these are all because of improvement of intercity accessibility. On the one hand, regional industries, economy impact. And the other is a person's impact. Okay? So the first one is because of the accessibility improvement, the industry is activated, the products will be higher, and then many other services will be supplied. On the other hand, the arrow should be like this. Accessibility improvement will affect on travelers' QOL, okay? So because it become comfortable, etc. At the same time, not travelers, but the people living along the new lines, their QOL will be enhanced because these travelers, the travel improvement will be giving more job opportunity, or people can get services from the other cities connected, formerly not connected. And then this is enhanced QOL. And this QoL improvement will be increasing the demand for the industries, or these will change lifestyle. The lifestyle change will develop different types of demand for different industries, and these will be repeated. The first analysis we have done is the industrial relations enhancement. So this is the case of Indian high-speed rail. I'll show you the map later. What would happen is the final demand will affect on the manufacturing enhancement, and the inside of manufacturing also internally enhanced. At the same time, the construction also. At the same time, the other services nowadays, finance, real estate, education, medical service, entertainment. This is the factors to enhance quality of life. So please look at the how wide are the different arrows, okay? Now, this is 1960s Japan. 1960s Japan was more manufacturing dependent compared to today's India. And then now, this is today's Japan. So less manufacturing dependent, but more, say, service dependent. This will enhance also more QoL. So how to measure the QoL development is this measurement method. Please imagine you are living in this mesh. This mesh is normally I use a 500 meter square, but 1 square kilometer, whichever. So you are living here, and then yellow is, there's a kindergarten here, kindergarten service. Okay, so this is very good for a young couple. But the medical service, hospitals are 30 minutes away or one hour away. So these services, if you live in J-mesh, then you can get these services very easily. But the 30 minutes, 1 hour will reduce the physically available service. And the samely, this purple one is a shopping service will be diminished. Then in total, if you live in mesh I, this amount of services, this I call accessible values. So summing up these pillars. Okay. Then what happens is, so this is AMIJ is VMJ will be diminished because of cost or time distance. Okay. So, but AMIJ is felt by young lady. Sorry. Oh, what happened?
Sensei, can you share your screen once again? You unshared it, maybe by mistake.
I'm afraid this disappeared. Just a minute. Okay, I will.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, no worries.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, I should have the file. No problem. Sorry about this.
It's okay. It's okay. No worries. Yeah, you can take your time.
Okay. Now I have. Okay, I think.
Let me know if I can share on your behalf, or you can share on your own.
Just a minute. Okay, can you kindly?
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry about this.
Yeah, it's okay. No worries. Please wait a minute. Yeah.
My PowerPoint. Now appearing here. Okay, sorry. Now I can. You can. Oh, this is yours. Okay. The next, please. Okay. So okay, here. No. Keep it. Okay. Okay. So now, young lady is how she feels. Okay. So that is. Say right hand side, you can see the equation. WMK means M service, how it is felt by K person, K attributes person. Okay, so old man or young lady or high income person or low income person or male or female. Okay, so living in the same mesh, QOL is different. This is my definition of QOL. Okay, so if we sum up all the K people, then that is Bhutan's gross national happiness, or more in general, gross regional happiness here, GRH. But what is better than Bhutan's QOL is happiness is here is we can sum up by any group by K. Okay, so then we can compare how happiness will be enhanced for old man or young lady, different generations. So this means we can judge SDGs, no one left behind. Okay, the next, please. The next. Next slide. Okay, so I only talked about the living opportunity, but the economic opportunity or amenity, more greens here, or safety, environmental burden, I have not yet explained. Many other factors. Please, next. So this is the result of the Indian high-speed rail corridor questionnaire survey. People living, this is summing up by region, by city, okay? So look at hospital service. Mumbai people are more keen than Surat people. Or air is Surat people are more concerned, air or noise, but Mumbai people less, like that, okay? So this is W, shape of W, weight, for different people, for different person, for different region. Okay, go ahead, please. Next, okay. So this is a more detailed result. Okay, look at delayed than scheduled time, the second from bottom. So this is by income group. The 1 hour delay is felt by high income people, 1,200 rupees loss. But for low income people, 570 loss, like that. Or air conditioning, how they feel better, or working environment during traveling, etc. Okay, so these numbers can be obtained. Okay, go the next. And this is the result mapping without case, with case, and the difference. So look at the differences. The most, say, gaining the percentage plus area is just above Surat. This we have checked. This area is good for local network of railways in that way. So we can map in this way, or we can evaluate for different people, etc. The next, please. So this is the final slide. The left-hand side, low-income people, middle and high-income people, what is important for them? And look at the right-hand side, the region, sport, cultural, etc. So look at this. High-income people are more concerned about the hospital service or cultural service. Okay, so now, so the low, middle, high-income people share is not fixed. The time will pass, then the regional income, whole income will be growing. Then more high-income people will be there. So the focus here is the considering the share of income groups. Okay, so this is just a method and say evaluation example. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Hayashi. Thank you. Thank you so much for this presentation and insightful discussion on QOL. Now, I would like to welcome our second speaker of the day, Professor Werner Rothengatter. Professor Rothengatter is an emeritus professor of economics at the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. He also served as the president of WCTRS from 2001 to 2007. He has worked at Universität Kiel German Institute for Economic Research in the past. We thank him for his continuing support for our initiatives, including several publications on HSR development. He will be presenting today on mega project governance for HSR projects in Europe. Over to you, Professor Rothengatter. Yeah.
So thank you very much for this kind introduction. Can you see my presentation on the screen?
Yes, Professor. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I will present two projects which look very different to European projects, one of Germany, one of France. The German project is a compound railway project for which the high-speed link is only one part of a series of projects for regional and local rail transport, while the French project is a pure high-speed project, and therefore it's much better manageable, and this will be shown by several examples for the figures which are related to these projects. So first of all, the German project is a project of a high-speed link between the cities Stuttgart and Ulm. I think most Asian people will not know about these locations. So most will know about Frankfurt, where they land, okay, when they go to Germany. So this is the largest airport of Germany, and they may know about Munich, which is the largest city of Germany, but they will not know about this corridor between Frankfurt and Munich, okay? And this link between Stuttgart, a city of 600,000 inhabitants, and Ulm, a city of 200,000 inhabitants, is one part of this project to improve the corridors in Germany and to introduce extensions to the existing high-speed network. So as I told you, this high-speed link is a part of a complex project which includes regional and city projects for improving the railway system. And this is shown here. What you see here, okay, with these dotted lines is a tunnel from the Stuttgart-Ulm project, which is a complete tunnel project because of the very difficult geographical conditions. About 70 kilometers are built with tunnels, which end here. And then the high-speed link goes to the airport of Stuttgart and to the city area of Stuttgart, and is combined with a series of regional and local investments, which you see here by dotted lines. The dotted lines illustrate the tunnel project. So altogether, several hundred kilometers of tunnels have to be built. And also 3 rail stations have to be built from scratch, 2 at the airport of Stuttgart and 1 at the city of Stuttgart. And this city project for a new railway station has been under discussion since several years in Germany, or better to say since several decades in Germany, because it changes the regional and local railway systems completely. In the core, there is this new underground railway station, which replaces a terminal at grade, which formerly combined intercity and regional transport. So this underground station, it will be a through station. That means, to show you the regional scale, it combines the south and the north by a through-bound station. And while in the present situation, there is a terminal which needs much space in the inner urban area. So through the through-bound station, the city gains about 100 hectares of land, okay, for development purposes, okay, for new settlements, for residential purposes, or for offices, or for business. So, and this is a new architecture, which say some people like, others do not like it, and therefore there were several protests of citizens in the Stuttgart area protesting against this undertaking. You see here a very modern construction with bull eyes, okay, with shed light, daylight, okay. Therefore, say the electricity consumption is very low for this airport. It is a really clean airport construction, but nevertheless, many citizen groups didn't like it and they preferred the present situation of a terminal. And therefore, say after the start of the project, some protest actions started and the project had to be interrupted. And this is a part of the history. So turning from these very beautiful pictures to the more nasty figures, I give you some details on the chronology of the development of this big project. It was already started in 1996, and according to the German planning system, it took about 10 years, okay, to get the legal approval. And it took 3 additional years to get the financial agreement because 6 partners had to go together. For instance, the airport authority and the regional authorities and the city authorities, the national authorities and the Deutsche Bahn, okay, the infrastructure manager for railways, they had to sign a contract. This took about 3 years. And they signed the contract upon the figures which had been produced in the legal approval process. So these figures were already outdated, okay, when the contract was signed. So the overall figures for the investment was about 5 billion. And the start of construction works then was in 2010. And after protest actions of several citizen groups, okay, an interruption occurred of 2 years from 2010 to 2011. And it took a long arbitration process and a voting process of the population of the state of Baden-Württemberg to get the project on tracks again. So the revision of cost then in the year 2012, and the project was continued, was about 10 billion already, so already double of the original figure. And presently the cost estimate is 13 billion, so it might end up with tripling the original figure of 5 billion. So what are the reasons for the cost and time overruns? So in the first instance, it's a project complexity. It consists of so many different details that it's very hard to manage such a project with one planning authority as it has been tried. So many partners did not have a clear allocation of the responsibility and risk, and therefore, in particular, political parties and groups were calling for changes according to their political preferences already are also during construction. So many changes had to be done during constructions. The protest actions, they decelerated the project, and then there were massive planning failures, which we have analyzed from the scientific point of view, and I will not point out them here. In the first instance, it's the missing risk management and the missing use also of modern planning tools, okay, which are available. So the architects are applying them for private businesses, but they have not been applied for the public actions, for the public planning, or for the investment in this case. And last but not least, the main reason for this the overruns of time and cost is that every party was hoping for the federal state as a risk taker of last resort. So if things fail, the federal state will pay. And so all parties relied on that, and nobody was interested in controlling the cost or the time schedules. So now I turn to a totally contrasting project, which has been planned in France some years ago. It's a link between the city of Bordeaux, here in the South Atlantic coast, and Tours, a city on the way from Bordeaux to Paris. So the overall link Bordeaux-Paris is about 500 kilometers, and the link Tours-Bordeaux is 300 kilometers. This was missing. And the details are that the link is 300 kilometers and there are 38 kilometers of connecting lines. So the connecting lines are necessary because of the French system. They are building the high-speed links, not say connecting the cities directly, like the city of Tours, but say going through at the periphery of the cities and connecting the city centers to the high-speed links by say peripheral stations. Okay, and that allows for speeding up the high-speed travel a lot, because contrast in Germany, it is not necessary to stop, okay, at every city in between, but the trains can go through, okay, and have a stop once, for instance, or only 2 times. And so a very flexible schedule can be introduced for operating, say, the trains according to the market needs. So the main difference is that the management of the project has been done by a private consortium. It's a PPP, public-private partnership, with a 50 years concession contract for a private consortium, which consists of construction companies and banks. And the public is involved with about 50%, a little bit more than 50% of the capital. So the state and the European Union contribute 3 billion, and the French infrastructure operator contributes 1 billion. And so there's a very clear allocation of responsibility. For instance, the infrastructure manager will try to get the money back, okay, through the access charges for the use of the trains. Yeah. So what are the lessons? One of the major lessons is so not to skip integrated planning. This is not my point, but it is to limit the complexity for the management of the project. So once an integrated plan has been established, it should be decomposed by controllable units. So the responsibilities should be clarified. There should be introduced a life cycle management such that all parties are interested in the long life of the project. There should be a fast change management, in particular in the German system. We have very, very long planning times. And as soon as the construction starts, many of the planning data are already outdated, and therefore a change management is very important. And last but not least, a clear allocation of risk to all partners, in particular financial risk to all partners, is a very important element. So to show you that this French project is not unique with respect to its success, I'll show you this example of a bridge in southern France, which has been established within 4 years only, and according to time and cost budget as planned. This is a very famous bridge of Millau, okay, which has been designed by the famous architect Norman Foster, and it attracts now, year by year, several 10,000s of tourists, okay, which spend some money only in the region only to watch this beautiful bridge. And the main thing for the economists was it has been constructed on time and within the planned cost budget. So this was my message, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Rathengatter. So we are running a bit short of time. So we will directly move to our section 2 of today's event, which is panel discussion. I would like to invite Dr. Nikhil Bugalia to be a moderator for this session. Dr. Nikhil Bugalia is currently working as an assistant professor at the Department of Civil Engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. His research focuses on the safety management of high-speed railway and construction industry. Over to you, Dr. Nikhil.
Yeah. Thank you, Sakshi, for that warm welcome. And I know we are slightly late and we have a couple of questions already, but we promise that we will take them later. Right now, I'm definitely excited to be moderating this session today, and the message from Professor Hayashi and Professor Rathengatter has clearly established the benefits of high-speed railway, but then these are not automatic, and we really need to make proper efforts to manage our HSR systems properly. And some of these more essential but more practical lessons are something that we are going to focus in the forthcoming session. And we have a panel of 4 eminent speakers with us. Unfortunately, we have only 7 minutes, very short period for hearing about their thoughts. But we will try to make the session more interactive. So we will have first 2 speakers present and then a quick Q&A, and then another 2 speakers present and a final Q&A for all. So I request all of you who are attending the session to use the Q&A feature of the Zoom. And if you could also indicate for whom your questions are targeted at, that will also help us. So with that, I will now introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Professor Gopal Patel. He's currently a professor of civil engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and he has also served as a lecturer in the University of Vermont. His research interests include transportation planning, freight modeling, network optimization, and traffic operations. Our next speaker is Dr. Kwang Kim. He's currently positioned as an associate research fellow at the Korea Transport Institute. He is a PhD in urban design and built environment from Tokyo Institute of Technology, and his research interests include railway operation, station area development, and the railway fare system. Post the intermediate Q&A, we will hear from our next panelist, Mr. Hiroyuki Matsuda. Hiroyuki Matsuda-san is a track maintenance specialist by profession and specializes in professional railway design engineering, and he has been working with JR East since 2002 and currently serves as the Deputy Director for Japan Railway Technical Service, JATS. And finally, we'll be hearing from the panelists who have been implementing and kind of leading the efforts of implementing whatever we are discussing here. And our final panelist is Mr. Alok Tripathi. He's currently serving as a General Manager of Innovation at the National High Speed Railway Corporation Limited, India. And he has a more than 20 years of diversified senior management experience, work as a member of the Indian Civil Services. With that brief introduction, I now invite Professor Patel to deliver his talk. We have a 7-minute timer to just help you keep pace. My first question to you, Professor Patel, is in India, right now, as you are aware that we are getting high-speed railway technology with help of Japan. But this is not new for us, right? We have developed new technology, transportation systems, even in past. So reflecting on some of that lessons, what is that the Indian planners, high-speed railway planners can learn from some of those projects? And if you could share with us, over to you.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Walia. Yeah, you're right. Okay. In last few decades, we have implemented some major projects such as expressways and many new airports. I guess we can discuss about many of them. Okay, so and then also maybe some experiences. I can specifically talk about, 2 projects which are, I guess, in the region where I live now. Okay, so one, I would specifically talk about the Mumbai-Pune Expressway. Mumbai-Pune Expressway is the first expressway in India. It's about 95 kilometers between stretch Mumbai and Pune. And that was a major, we can say, shift in how highways are constructed, managed in India. And this 95-kilometer of expressway, because of the access control, we can travel in 1 hour. But the problem is that once we end the expressway, then there is this Pune city, and then if you want to go south, there are highways there, bypass, but there is so many entry and exit points. So we are coming out of access control highway to a stretch where we have so many entry exit points, and then if you want to go to south, Pune or Bangalore or Satara, Kolhapur, it takes about 1 hour to cross that stretch of city. And it has been 20 years since the expressway is constructed, and still we don't have access control section. So the second project, I would like to talk about the Mumbai Airport. Mumbai Airport is currently, it has been like almost, I think, more than decades. It is under very severe capacity, constraint. Although they did some improvement and all these things, but it has only one runway. Actually, there are 2 cross runways, but only one can be used. And so this was known more than 20 years back, and there was a discussion about a new airport before 2000 itself, but we still don't have any other airport. And because of that, airlines, people are, suffering. And then the way at which the airlines industry is growing in India, I think this should have been come long back. And now we'll have, hopefully in a couple of years, a new airport in Navi Mumbai area. But that airport, hopefully for next 10, 15 years it will be okay. But we don't know about 15, 20 years, after 15 to 20 years. And my guess is that after 20 years or so, okay, so that probably will also reach capacity. And currently we have one runway, and the new airport will add 2 runways. So total 3 runways, there is no extension capacity to that. And so to the best of knowledge, there is not much discussion about what to do once even that airport is also, reach capacity after 20 years or so. Okay. I think in Shanghai, there are 2 airports with more than 10 runways. And then now, right now, we have only 1 runway, and then there are 2 runways are going to come. From these 2 things, I can tell you many other things also. Okay, now coming to high-speed railway. Okay. This is actually, I think, the best thing happened in many years for passenger transport. Okay, at least we started something. Probably we should have started long back. Okay. And but then I think we should be careful about the planning. Okay, so I was looking at the report of Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed rail, and then I see the demands between different stations. Okay. I believe they are not considered if the HSR is extended to, let's say, north or south towards Pune, Nashik, what the demand is going to be. So one positive experience I believe is about, we have learned a lot about public-private partnership. Okay, so many airports are being constructed or have been already constructed, being constructed. Many national highways, expressways are being constructed using public-private partnership. So I think that experience should be used in further extension of high-speed rail. Summarize, okay, so and then this thing specifically, the experience, I would like to have 4 points. Okay, one is that when we plan the individual section, okay, so we need to consider the nationwide high-speed rail network, which is about 10,000, which is very ambitious, and then I hope to see it implemented very soon. Not just the sections. For example, this Mumbai Ahmedabad, we should see what happens if we extend it to Pune side, Nashik side, like that. Okay. So the second thing is we should integrate with the existing and proposed infrastructure. I believe airports are important, and they are kind of like complement and also compete with high-speed rail. Okay. I was hoping that these Mumbai Ahmedabad high-speed rail should have connected directly to airport. Although now there is some way we can reach, but it is not directly connected. And also the new airport is coming up, Navi Mumbai. So I was hoping that should be have connected to Mumbai and Navi Mumbai airport, so that it could have been planned later on to go south or so Pune side or Nashik side. The extension could have been easier. Then the third point is about the future thing. Okay. So Professor Hayashi nicely talked about the impact of high-speed rail on various things, and there are so many opportunities going to come. Okay. There is going to be a lot of induced demand. Okay. And with that, are we considering all these things factor into designing of stations and other things? I think that kind of study, regional or national level, I think is very much important to see how the overall economic scenario with all the opportunities and all those things going to happen, and then incorporating those inputs into plannings are very important. And of course, this public-private partnership I mentioned, that because this even this Mumbai Expressway I talked about, or Mumbai Airport, all are planned with public-private partnership. I think funding is going to be a big challenge in India. We are lucky to have Japan to help us with the this first high-speed rail, and then I think in India also there are I'm sure many companies willing to fund some stretch with various arrangements, and then whatever the experience we gained with public-private partnership, I believe that can be used in extending the high-speed railway immediately. We should not wait for 20, 30, 40 years to get the planned infrastructures, and then hope to see that bigger infrastructure, high-speed rail like what we see in China in very near future. I think with that, time is also ending, and then
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for this.
I think Yeah, point well taken that we should draw some lessons from a nationwide plan as well, and it should be integrated with the existing mode. And I'll come back to you with more questions. Moving on to our next speaker, Dr. Kyung Tae Kim. And the question is also considering about the integration of a high-speed railway with other multimodal modes. So as far as we know, National Planning Policy of South Africa has established a balanced development strategy utilizing the high-speed railway network as a point for new regional urban growth, right? So from your experience in Korean railway project, what are the critical design aspects behind the development of station areas in Korea, and what can other countries learn about these lessons? Over to you, Dr. Kim.
Okay, thank you very much. So today I briefly show the case of the Korea today. So actually, the high-speed railway of Korea was firstly opened in 2004, and there are three kinds of the HSR networks depending on the commercial speed of the track. So for example, the high-speed railway for maximum 300 km per hour, and semi-high-speed railway, the second one, for the 230 to 270 km per hour, especially for the electric multiple unit. And the third one is the upgraded conventional line for 200 to 230 km per hour. So after the HSR opening, the average access time to the high-speed railway station has continuously decreased. In the case of Donbegu Station, about 70% of passengers can access to the high-speed railway station within 30 minutes. Even people who live the 70 km away from the high-speed railway station come to the visit to the high-speed railway station to take HSR. From this, we can be noticed that the feeder services to the high-speed railway station is very important for these people who are far away from the high-speed railway stations. So in 2020, the Korea Transport Institute surveyed about the purposes to visit the high-speed railway station and demands on the high-speed railway station area development. And about 82% of respondents consider that an intermodal transfer facility is the most important one to develop the high-speed railway station area. And people who visiting the HS station area have a very specific purposes, not only taking the high-speed railway station, but also appointment, sending off work, taking other transportation, shoppings, and so on. So then we also ask the people that a direction for the high-speed railway station area development. About 51% of the respondents said that the station area development should include hotel and commercial facilities and intermodal transport services. Today, I briefly introduced the two representative high-speed railway station area developments of Korea. The first one is the Donbegu Station. This is one of the major high-speed railway stations in Korea. The Donbegu Station area development is based on the basically transit-oriented development strategy. Before the development, as you can see from the left pictures, the 4 intercity bus terminals here, this one, this, and these 4 ones are operated by the different companies, and they were dispersed near the high-speed railway station. This is the high-speed railway stations. So 3 of them were disconnected from the high-speed railway station because of this load range. After the development, on the right pictures, the private company built a large department store next to the high-speed railway stations. The high-speed railway next to the high-speed railway station, the department store, including the multimodal transfer facilities. Not only the transfer facilities, but also the bus-only range, bus stop, taxi stops, and public spaces are also improved. One of the interesting points of the case of the Donbegu Station is that the intermodal transfer center and department store is developed by a private company. And the role of the local government is to support the development by improving the other infrastructures, such as the road range, bus-only range, and taxi stops and bus stops. So the first picture here, this one, is the before the high-speed railway station area development. And the second one is the after the station area development. And this one is the high-speed railway station. And next to this station, we can see a large department store. And this large department store includes the multimodal transfer facility as well. And 3 and 4 shows the public transport services for the taxi-only line and bus-only line. And 5th picture shows the express bus platform in the multimodal transfer center within the department store. The second case is the Kwang high-speed railway station. This was opened in 2004 with the first opening of the high-speed railway in Korea. This left picture shows the before, and right shows the after the high-speed railway station area development. In 2004, before the station area development, there was nothing near the high-speed railway stations. Kwangmyeon high-speed railway station and each area development is a kind of the new town development focused on the high-speed railway stations. And currently in 2022 now, we can show various facilities. For example, there are large shopping malls like IKEA or Costco, and outlets. Not only these commercial buildings, but also high-rise building apartment was also constructed. An interesting point is the airport terminal is also located within the high-speed railway stations. Airline passengers who come from the local area or far away from the capital area can take the high-speed railway station from their own city to the Kwangmyeon station. Then they can finish the boarding procedures at the station. Then they just take the airport express bus. An intercity bus terminal is also located near the high-speed railway stations. And other bus and bus vehicle
sorry, sorry, Dr. Kim, but
yes,
we also need to wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so this is the before and after the high-speed railway station area. We can show these kind of pictures. So the important functions for high-speed railway station area development is transport, information, business, commercial, residential, and amenities. So when we develop the high-speed railway station area, we firstly should consider the intermodal transfer facility and the other various purposes, the buildings and functions like shopping, office, and green spaces. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and sorry for that interruption. I think the message is clear that intermodal has to receive a priority. So I think we have lots of questions which are being answered by our panelists already in the chat. So please feel free to reach out there. I'm also inviting Dr. Lê from University of Transport and Communication in Vietnam. She has a question for Professor Gopal. So over to you, Dr. Lê.
Thank you very much for your introduction. But sorry, I have the question for Dr. Kim. Is it okay?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Kim, I feel very impressive with your presentation. And in fact, I am now also doing some research on TOD development. So I have the question from your experience. How long did it take for the development of the station that you have taken as the study? I mean, from the beginning of the construction, how long do you think that it can be successful with the development around this station?
So I totally didn't understand your question. So do you mean how long take the high-speed railway station area development?
Yes.
So actually, in fact, in the case of the Donbegu high-speed railway station, based on the intermodal transfer facility, has a long history. In fact, before the 2010, the local government and private company tried to develop the station area, but there was a problems like land prices problems. Actually, when we consider the station area development, especially in the urban area, land price always burden the local government and private company also. So the private company tried to the private company and the local government to try to solve these problems for a few years. And maybe when I consider the development project, in the case of Donbegu Station area, it takes the 5 to 7 years. And the other case, the Kwang high-speed railway station has also a long history. In fact, as soon as often after the high-speed railway opening in 2004, the high-speed railway station area was still under construction. So it takes the 50 years almost. So because in this case, that is a kind of new town development. So it takes a long time. So in order to the development for the high-speed railway station and its station area development, the local government or the central government should take enough time before the construction of the high-speed railway networks. When we make a high-speed railway networks planning, we should consider the railway station area development as well at the same time, maybe.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, for that. I think the message is clear that this is not a short-term investment and policymakers should clearly think for long-term things. So we are running out of time, but I encourage all of you to keep your questions posted in Q&A. Our panelists are answering them directly over the chat. And of course, we will make sure, if you leave your contact detail, we will make sure that your questions are answered. So I'll now invite our next presenter, Mr. Hiroyuki Matsuda from JATS. So I hope I can see Mr. Matsuda. Yes. So Matsuda-san, a question for you. Since Japan is a pioneer in high-speed railway and it's supporting many countries like India to implement their high-speed railway networks. So what was the methodology for establishing the training and certification related programs for high-speed railway in India? Could you elaborate on that?
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. So just a moment. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
So good afternoon. This is Hiroyuki Matsuda from JATS. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to participate in this session. So today, I'd like to give you an overview of the training and certification or Tnc services for track work of Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project. So first, let me explain why we are launching Tnc services. On April 1st of 2022, we opened a Tnc Japan office since the T2 package of all 3 packages of the high-speed rail track construction had been started in January 2022. So this is India's first high-speed rail project, which is based on Japanese Shinkansen technology. So Slab track, which has a proven track record in Japan and is highly reliable, will be laid for the first time by the Indian track contractors. So the slab track construction for high-speed rail is a unique Japanese technology that required strict quality control. So it was agreed that we would coordinate and mobilize Japanese experts with extensive experience and expertise in track construction works to provide Tnc services to the engineers of Indian track contractors. From the early 2020, the details of Tnc services had been discussed with the National High-Speed Rail Corporation Limited or NHSRCL, the high-speed rail project entity. And then on April 19, 2021, NHSRCL and JUDS signed an MOU for provision of Tnc services for track work of the project. So what is Tnc services? The Tnc services are divided into 3 categories: site study tour in Japan, Tnc service, and advisory service. In the site study tour, construction managers and site managers from Indian truck construction companies visit Japan for about 2 weeks for classroom training, classroom lectures, and site visits to high-speed rail slab track construction sites. However, because of the pandemic, the tour was not conducted in agreement with the NHSRCL. So instead, the visual materials will be provided to them. Second, the Tnc service. The Japanese instructors provide technical training with site managers and work leaders at track training facility in Surat, Gujarat state. So after conducting the training, certificates of completion are issued to those who meet the criteria. The third is an advisory service. The Japanese advisors will check and advise the engineers who have received the Tnc service certificate to ensure the slab track construction work at actual sites is properly carried out in accordance with the training provided. But this is an optional service. So the following slides show the Tnc project implementation structure. So only a few companies can provide track slab manufacturing, reference pin setting, rail welding, turnout, cement, asphalt mortar construction, all of which are necessary to construct slab tracks equivalent to the Japanese Shinkansen. So we provide Tnc services to the Indian truck contractors by having those Japanese specialized companies dispatch their experts to JUDS as instructors. So we also receive technical support for developing training materials from JR East and JRTT. So the next slide shows the main training courses and training sequence required for slab track laying work. The red arrow indicates the training cycle. So more than 900 engineers and supervisors will be trained. So after a series of training sessions from reference pin setting to rail alignment, the slab track is removed to allow another group to restore it to its original condition, and the process is repeated for training. So with the limited number of instructors, facilities, space, and equipment required for training, the training schedule must be carefully considered to ensure that each training course is completed efficiently and effectively before the start of the mainline track construction. Dr. Nikuri-san, so I'd like to end my presentation at this point and invite everyone to ask their questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Matsuda-san, for being before time. It's really helping us. And great to see the efforts of Japan's side for transferring some of the knowledge related to learning by doing. So now I would like to invite Mr. Alok Tripathi, whose organization has been absorbing all the knowledge and actually trying to implement this in India. Over to you, Mr. Tripathi, and I know you have many slides, but please keep track of time. Thank you so much. You have to unmute yourself, sir.
So thank you, Nikhil, and hello, everyone. Because of the paucity of time, I will skim through a few of the slides, and I'll basically discussing the policy practitioner's perspective about the high-speed rail network expansion in our country. Just to give an idea that from 1853 to 2015, we have been able to raise our speed from 32 kmph to 160 kmph, but this is not sufficient. Most of the countries have raised the speed significantly, more than 350 kmph, and we are way behind. And probably this was the thinking. Because of that, the policymakers decided to start thinking about the development of high-speed rail system in India. This thinking started in 2007 and 8, and in many railway budgets.
Alok, sir, may I request you to put it on slideshow? It's
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So, so this thinking about the HSR expansion started in 2007 and 8, and in many railway budgets, many corridors across the country were identified for assessing the feasibility of developing HSR expansion. And in this regard, many studies were also conducted in the past. And finally, we came out with our first HSR corridor, that is Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail corridor. The basic reason for taking this as our first corridor was because Gujarat and Maharashtra, through which this corridor is passing, these are highly economically developed states, and there was a sufficient potential travel demand potential assessed. I will not go through these things because these are merely the chronology. I would only like to say that this joint feasibility study for this corridor was conducted in 2013, and finally in 2015 we have the memorandum of cooperation between two governments for development of Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail system with Japanese Shinkansen technology. This is the overview of the high-speed rail project. I would not like to go in detail, except that the operating speed for this corridor is going to be 320 kmph, and we will be covering this 500 kilometer stretch in a span of around 2 hours time. Now, beyond that, there are two things which have happened in the past, in the recent past, regarding the expansion of high-speed rail network across the country. So I think Professor Gopal was talking about the future expansion of the high-speed rail system. So this is the policy makers thinking about the possible expansion which may happen. So in this regard, the Ministry of Railway had identified 7 corridors for developing the detailed project report to find out the possibility of developing HSR system. And this task has been given to our organization. We have already completed 3 DPRs for Delhi, Varanasi, Delhi, Ahmedabad, and Mumbai, Nagpur, and remaining are in progress. So this is one development which happened. And assuming that these all projects are sanctioned, so this is the kind of HSR network that would look like in our country. And you can see that if a person is traveling from Amritsar, then he can come to Delhi, he can take HSR, goes to Ahmedabad, Mumbai, or Nagpur or Hyderabad. So that is the kind of network which is going to happen if the government decides to implement all these projects. So this is one thing. The second thing is, again, which was happening parallelly, is the National Rail Plan, which ministry has developed. And in this particular National Rail Plan, there has been a talk about the phased implementation of HSR system in next 30 years time. So in next 30 years times, the National Rail Plan talks about around 8,000 kilometers of HSR network across the country, and this is what it would look like. So we can see that some of these corridors, we as organization are already developing the detailed project report, and there are certain corridors where the process is yet to be initiated. Now, there are few pointers which I would like to present here, which should be taken into consideration while deciding the HSR expansion in India. So there was a technology vision document 2035, which talks about that no place should be more than 3 hours away from district headquarters, 5 hours from state capital, and 8 hours from national capital. So this is one pointer. The second pointer is basically from the reports of World Bank, which says that cities having population of more than 1 million, they contribute significantly to GDP. And if these cities are located at a distance ranging between 500 to 800 kilometers, then these are suitable for development of HSR corridor. This is the third pointer, which is basically the McKinsey Insight report, which talks about the few clusters which are going to contribute significantly to the economic development of the country. So if we take these 3 pointers, then we find that these are the possible corridors across the country where we should go for developing the HSR corridors. And if we see these corridors on map of India, then it would look like this. So the orange ones are those where we are already developing the detailed project report. This blue one is one where we are constructing, and green ones are others where the process is yet to be initiated. But assuming that this entire corridor is developed, then we will find that almost all the major cities of the country will be well connected with 4 metropolitan cities, namely Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata, within a time range of, let's say, 3 hours to 4 hours time. So this is the kind of time zone then we will have as far as rail travel is concerned in this country. But there are certain challenges which needs to be thought well by the policy makers. I will not go into all these challenges. I will focus on 3 parts. One is the technology partner, then this interoperability. These are basically linked challenges, and this becomes important. And the third, I will talk about the funding and revenue part, because that is going to be a major issue while deciding the HSR projects. So why I'm saying that interoperability and technology becomes an issue, because if we have to develop this kind of network, then we need to also think that passengers should have a seamless travel. They need not change the services because of the technology constraint. So we should have the system where the technology can be integrated and we can run the services from one end to another end. So that is why the interoperability and technology becomes important. And cost becomes important because this is the kind of cost you have for 1 kilometer. So 1 kilometer of HSR, you require almost 300 crore rupees. And which comes to, and assuming that we are going to develop 8,000 kilometer network, it comes to around $300 billion of investment. So who is going to do that kind of investment? That's a major challenge for us.
Yeah. Alok sir, may I request you to wrap it up soon? Thank you.
Only 2-3 slides, not more than that.
Yeah.
So, the second part was the capacity development for HSR network. And in this regard, I will skip these things. We can talk during the question and answer session. So the NHSRCL has taken one initiative, which is basically the High Speed Railway Innovation Center Trust. And this is basically meant to undertake research and development in the field of the high-speed rail system using our indigenous capabilities and by collaborating with academic institutes. And the idea is to build the cost-effective solutions for HSR system. And in this regard, this is the kind of structure where we have many directors of IITs. We have the representation from University of Tokyo. We have representation from RTRI and then NHSRCL officers. And this is the kind of procedure which we have adopted. We will discuss if time permits during the question and answer session. And this is the kind of project which we have taken for indigenous development, which is basically related to civil engineering as well as electrical engineering aspect. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alok Tripathi, sir. That was, I think, that addressed a lot of concerns. So we have a couple of questions in Q&A, and I think a lot of them have been answered by our panelists, and I really appreciate their efforts. One quick question that I would like to ask Professor Gopal. I think some of the comments that he had raised are also being addressed by NHSRCL currently, as Alok Tripathi sir highlighted. So do you still see 1 or 2 more remaining challenges that potentially we could, together coming as an academia industry, could help address in NHSRCL? Your comment on that was a Gopal.
Okay, so yeah, it was good to hear from Mr. Alok Tripathi about the plans and all those things. Okay. So one thing of course, that can be, so this regional and national demand. Okay, so the kind of thing Dr. Kim also talked about, this integrated thing for Korea and all those things. Okay. So we don't have a regional demand model to analyze all these things. Okay, so the studies, I guess, right now the being done is that stretch-wise separately. Okay, And also, I'm not sure whether the other modes are integrated while planning. So we need to have, I guess, that regional demand model or national demand model. And also, although I see that some IIT directors and professors are involved, but we don't have research centers supported or sponsored by high-speed rail in institute and all this thing. I think that is needed in long term. Okay, so to boil down two things, I think one is that regional demand model, which can be used to analyze various things, and then also the long-term associated with academics by setting up research centers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Gopal. And I think definitely it opens up a lot of opportunities through this ADBI that we can actually, we know the plans better, and hopefully we'll have a personal meeting with Mr. Tripathi in his office soon to discuss some of these ideas. Mr. Tripathi also touched on a very interesting point about the capacity building and training and certification. Right? And we also heard from Matsuda-san about how he's establishing the training and certification examination. But then this is also coming from a bit of a personal experience, is in a cross-cultural setting, what are the kind of challenges that training and capacity building programs for high-speed railway systems are there, and how JR East or JARS are trying to overcome this? Over to you, Matsuda-san. You are muted, Matsuda-san.
Okay, so when it comes to the challenges in the cross-cultural setting, language and cultural differences are the two major issues. So just a moment, let me share my screen. So this is our challenges, and now we are preparing easy to understand English language materials for Indian engineers while consulting with NHS-RCL. And also there are some cultural differences between Japan and India. So our approach is to try to understand and respect the cultural differences and find a common ground where everyone can understand each other. For example, in the training, if there are some procedures that we consider more important than others, but trainees might find questionable, we will carefully explain not only the steps to be followed, but also the reasons and benefits why they have to be followed. So I believe following the process completely will provide the full benefits of a safe working environment and high quality track construction system to the Indian contractors. So I hope that explanation answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matsuda-san. It's been very, very interesting to listen to some of the ideas that are happening, and also very close to my heart. And there are a couple of questions related to realizing that how this HSR system is such a long-term effect, right? And there are some short-term dynamics happening, and then there are really long-term dynamics happening. So there was a very interesting question on chat by one of PhD student, and we would like to give them opportunity to speak also. Ms. Chinbat, if I'm not pronouncing her name wrong, she's talking about the land price increasing around the high-speed railway station area, right? And is there any policy or regulation when you develop the transit-oriented development plans? How can you make the station area still being affordable, right? So if I'm not wrong, and did I phrase your questions correctly, Ms. Chinbat? And I think this question is for Mr. Kim, Dr. Kim.
Okay, thank you for the questions. And as I mentioned the last time, the land price problem is especially important in the case of the urban area development. And I introduced the two cases. The first one is the case of the urban area, and the second case is the new town development. So the second case is not very, it's a little bit easy to solve the land price problems, but the problem is the first cases maybe. So in the case of the Korea, the local government tried to provide the land near the high-speed railway station. For example, there is the land areas possessed by the local government, or the railway company. Here, the railway company is the high-speed railway operation company, and they have a lot of land areas near the high-speed railway area. So in these cases, when the local government or private companies want to developing these high-speed railway station area, they can use this kind of the land areas possessed by the public sectors. And your question is, second question is about the related policies or regulations for the land area. Already I wrote some comment, but I briefly introduced the more details. So in the case of the Korea, we have some act related to the, not only for the high-speed railway station area, it's in fact for the urban development. And we have also a specific act for developing high-speed railway station or station area. We called that the act on developing and using station area of the influence. However, in fact, we have this act, but it has not been used to develop the high-speed railway station area because of some limitations. And the central government now tried to revise the law to attract the station area development based on this act. And most of the high-speed railway station area development is based on the Urban Development Promotion Act or the other related Housing Site Development Act, like this one. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Kim. I think that also
may I
another
have
session.
This is Hayashi. May I have additional comment on this very interesting discussion?
Hayashi-sensei, please go ahead. But we are running out of time also.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's very necessary that it is a fact that the vicinity of high-speed railway stations, land value will be increased. So that kind of value should be returned back to the public or to the railway operators. So how to do that? In the case of Japan, the property tax is a local tax. So local tax will be, say, increased. So some percentage of local tax for that reason. So the local government are requested to, say, put some investment beforehand to railway investment, railway construction. That is done for Tsukuba Express from Tokyo to Tsukuba Science City. That is 80 kilometers long, but unfortunately not yet done for whole country. And I know Korea introduced about 20 years ago an excellent tax system. So the average increase percentage of national average, if some place is higher than the average increase, then the difference will be taxed like that. So such kind of ideas should be introduced also to India or to other newly improving countries. That's my idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Hayashi. And I think this is a very interesting topic, but we need to also keep time. So I conclude the session here and over to you, Sakshi. And thank you all the panelists and the Q&A. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nikhil, for your excellent moderation and pulling us back to the time in the session. And thank you all to all the distinguished panelists for such an insightful discussion on HSR. Thank you to all the participants for participating and posting your questions on the chat box. We are now coming to the end of our session today. I now invite Mr. Takehiro Kawahashi. He is Deputy Director at Office for India High Speed Rail at JICA to give the closing remarks. Over to you, Kawahashi-san.
Yes, thank you so much. So good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So my name is Kawahashi, in charge of high-speed railway in Japan International Cooperation Agency. So today, very fruitful discussions on high-speed railway network in Asian countries was conducted. And I myself also got a lot of knowledge and learnings from successful experiences in other countries in each session. In JICA, so we are supporting Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project in India. The design phase started in the end of 2016, and from 2020, some civil packages and track packages have started their construction. So in parallel with that, organization enhancement and human resource development of Indian counterpart are being conducted for future safe and reliable HSL operations. So in the first session, network effect of HSL and mega project management were discussed. So it has been mentioned that networking of HSL contributes to reduce people's travel time, and this leads to improvement not only of the regional GDP, but also quality of life of the people along the HSL. So now HSL and the construction is on only one line in India, but I understand the network between HSL and urban transportation in the region of HSL station also is expected to contribute similarly to regional GDP and quality of life of people. And so, as Mr. Alok Tripti mentioned, in the future, HSL network will be expanded more. So there was a lot of learnings from HSL project in European countries also. So HSL is the most environmentally friendly transport modes from the aspect of energy consumptions. And I heard there are policies to use more HSL than other modes in Europe. The better connection between HSL and existing lines realized. And it is interesting that in some lines, private operator participation realized, and the concept of public service obligations and certain service level is secured. And in the second session, TOD experienced in Korea and the variety aspects of Indian high-speed rail were discussed. So transit-oriented development on greenfield stations on KTX in Korea achieved to establish both necessary functions which a transport have and commercial and residential development in front of the stations. So as stated in the presentation, generally HSL station has much broader effect area than urban transportations. And therefore such function, a transport hub, is key function to utilize full potential of HSL stations. So in Mumbai Ahmedabad high-speed rail, in Mumbai Ahmedabad and Sabarmati station where lots of passengers are expected. So those stations will be connected with metros, which JICA is supporting to construct. And also HSL itself is constructing a station building in front of station, Sabarmati station. And I heard this will be completed in near future. So it is anticipated that HSL station will be transport hub of the cities, where it is easy for passengers to access, and transport network of whole city will be useful for passengers to go any places. And now JICA is planning to start a technical cooperation to Indian government for station area development on several stations. This will cover from concept design to area basic design of the station areas. And HSL technologies and human resource development in India HSL project are discussed. TNC is a part of technology transfer, and the important aspect of this project is to transfer philosophy and skills to handle HSL properly. In the last April and May, Japanese side has invited some NHSLC staffs of the future HSLC operation to Japan and conducted trainings for them with support by Japanese railway operator. So I hope that the COVID-19 situation will further improve and this kind of human resource interchanges can be conducted more easily. So finally, today's session is also a precious opportunity, and in near future, the experience and the learnings of India high-speed rail project can be shared and utilized in other countries. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much, Kawahashi-san, for concluding today's session. We have now reached to the end of today's event. I would like to thank all the speakers and panelists and the participants to actively participate in today's event. And so now I'm bringing to a close. A very good evening to everyone. And we'll be posting a short feedback form for you all. So please fill that form. It is posted in the chat box. Yeah, a very, very good evening. Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending today's event.